This week's episode is going to be from Wieliczka. So Wieliczka is one of the more famous places in Poland, mainly because of the salt mines, but there's also a 13th century castle here. So there's more to see than the main tourist attraction. There's the salt radiation tower as well. So I'm going to try and show you a few things that maybe you'll miss if you just see the mining routes. I'm going to show you both mining routes because each one has its own charm and each one is quite different. And we're going to talk a little bit about some potential future for Wieliczka, a little bit about its past. So please stay tuned. I hope you find it useful and do enjoy. Dzień dobry and welcome to A Brit in Poland. With this channel, I travel across the country, I bring you the culture, and I show you just how amazing Poland is. So I invite you on my journey. If you want to see more, I have Facebook and Instagram profiles, which you will find links to in the description below. And if you want to really help out, you can turn to my Patreon or Patronite accounts, again in the description. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Do zobaczenia. So Wieliczka is located in the Lesser Poland Voivodeship, literally just south of Krakow. In fact, there is a train that will take you there in about 20-30 minutes, which is very easy to use and frequent and cheap. So I do recommend that. Of course, you can book, organized tours which take you to the salt mine. But personally, I recommend organizing it yourself. You can buy tickets for the various routes online and you'll save a nice bit of money and also have more free time to go around and do some shopping, etc. So what can we say about Wieliczka? The population is about 27,000. The name is derived from Polish Wielkie Sól, which means great salt. And it was originally worked from the 9th century by Celts and displaced by the Slavic tribes. The importance of the city increased when the capital of Poland was moved from Gniezno to Krakow in the 11th century. By the way, this Ferris wheel, it was only about 20 zloty and it gives you a lovely view. You go around 2 or 3 times for your money. And yes, you have the screens, which means the camera work is not ideal, but it is a very relaxing thing. Yes, so in 1556, Jews were prohibited from residing in the city, as was quite common in Poland. In 1651, there was a plague, and 1655, 1660, the economy declined due to Swedish deluge. The city was plundered. The people fought back, with about 3,000 people killing a load of Swedes on a hill. So let's talk about the mine. So we're starting with the tourist route, which is more, definitely the busiest route. And you're going to find hundreds of people there, thousands a day. It gets a little crowded. You have tourist groups of about 40 or so at a time. But it is definitely worth doing. You will find various statues throughout which have been carved by the miners. There are something like 40 chapels in total. You don't see all of them, of course, on these various tours, but you see a few. The mine itself, it gets maybe about 2 million visitors per year. There are 9 levels, so it's pretty deep. In fact, 327 meters is the deepest point. 245 kilometers worth of tunnels, 26 shafts to gain entry, and the total area is 9 million meters cubed. So let's talk a bit about the history of mining in this area because it is very important for Wieliczka. So originally people were collecting brine, so salt water, which was drawn from natural springs. And this used to be boiled in small clay vessels on modest hearths. And in this simple way, salt was obtained already in Neolithic times. The oldest salt working tools in Central Europe, discovered in the village of Brit near Wieliczka, come from this period. The salt obtained served as a preservative for meat and fish, and with that time, it became a means of payment in trade for those who did not possess this valuable raw material. This is the St. Kinga's Chapel, which is perhaps the most significant part of the tour. It's incredibly beautiful. According to legend, the chapel was built after Princess Kinga, daughter of King Bela the IV of Hungary. She threw her engagement ring in a salt mine located in another location, and it was miraculously retrieved in the Wieliczka salt mine. Miners later built a place of worship to celebrate St. Kinga, patron saint of salt mine workers. And you'll find that everything has been carved by hand, with tools, by the miners, who were all very religious, because at the end of the day, you want to be safe when you're working in these mines. It's quite a dangerous occupation. So turning to God and praying to him was a good way of getting safety. But carrying on with the history. At the turn of the 11th and 12th centuries, when the salt springs began to weaken and disappear, an active search for brine was started through the construction of wells, and salt water was extracted from wells to the surface, and then boiled in iron pans until the pure evaporated salt remained. At that time, the whole region of Wieliczka developed. There were 3 residential settlements, 2 stone churches, trade and craft flourished, and the first shaft leading underground was struck as early as the second half of the 13th century. Salt extraction, which then constituted as much as a third of the Royal Treasury's income, so made Poland a lot of money. At the end of the Middle Ages, there were around 300 to 350 people working in the mine. The first tourist who we know was Nicholas Copernicus, who visited in 1493, and this was noted by the miners dedicating a statue to him, as well as various kings. As you can see, there are gift shops throughout Wieliczka selling all kinds of salt-based products. So in the 16th to 18th century, the mine moved to a year-round working schedule. The development required the employment of more and more specialists in various fields, e.g. surveyors responsible for conducting detailed measurements. The first maps of the underground were created around this time. In the 16th century, the search for salt below the first level began, and in the middle of the 17th century, the mine reached the 3rd level. Remember, there are 9 levels. In 1772, it came under control of the Habsburgs due to the first partition of Poland, Austria taking this portion of the country. Salt extraction using gunpowder was started. A railway line was built underground. A steam hoisting machine and a power plant were commissioned. And the production of salt resumed in a modern salt work. So, they really ramped up the technology. From 1868 onwards, part of the route could be toured by horse-drawn railway. Breathtaking attractions were prepared for the guests, such as the Devil's Drop, which was a miner's descent into the mine using a rope. Boat rides on the saline lake were organised. During the tour, the path was illuminated with torches. The mining orchestra played for the visitors, and there were also fireworks shows. It's a lot less dramatic now, but nonetheless still incredibly beautiful. So behind the main salt mine, you have the Radiation Tower, and these are quite popular in Poland. This, I think, has to be the biggest one in Poland, or if not, one of the biggest for sure. I've seen quite a few of these, and this is massive compared to what I've seen. And it's a place for healing. You sit there, you breathe in the salt water. It's very good for the lungs and, good for your healing system. You also have this nice park that's been built from the salt mine to the centre of the city with a statue of John Paul II, because it's Poland. If you go somewhere without John Paul II, you've probably left Poland. And we're going to go to the castle here, which is the main museum in Wieliczka, and it dates back to the 13th century. And it was pretty important because it served as the administrative seat of the Krakow Salt Works, Wieliczka, and Bochnia. Bochnia being another mine that hopefully I'll go to next year. The castle was destroyed and rebuilt many times. And after the war, it was rebuilt to be the Krakow Saltworks Museum. So going to this museum, it gives you a bit of an insight into the mining history of the town, as well as, collections from the nobles that were involved in the mine. You get an archaeological display showing various tools that were used in the past, and this incredible room filled with all these different salt shakers. Some pretty beautiful salt shakers in there. So it's well worth popping into this museum. It's not massive. You maybe need an hour or so to go around it. It's spread over a couple of buildings. And it's pretty cool. It's maybe like 20 zloty or something, so incredibly cheap to go around. So I do recommend. Yes, as I say, it's worth to visit the town as well as just seeing the salt mines. And we're walking through the streets, so you get this, of course, in the main square, the I love Wieliczka sign, which is, you see these all over Poland. And you have this cool monument to the miners. And what I presume is the town hall, because it's the grandest building with a nice fountain outside the front. There was a bit of a concert going on when we were there, which was a nice bonus, lovely singing. Polish singers are, truly, they have beautiful voices. And if you go a bit to the back of the city, you see this pond, and you go up the hill and you get another viewpoint of the city. A little bit, shrouded by the trees, but still, it's nice to escape into nature. So we're going to go into the second mining tour, and this is the miner's route. So you can see at the beginning we were fully equipped, so we had to wear boiler suits, we had to wear helmets, we were given lights because there are no lights in this part of the mine, you have to do everything by torch, and we were given carbon monoxide filter masks just in case of emergency. Apparently they haven't been used in about 40 years, but better safe than sorry. And what you see from this tour is it's a lot more raw. It actually feels like a mine, whereas the tourist route, it feels like a museum almost. And this feels a lot more real, a lot more raw. You can see all the salt. There's a lot of the kind of equipment, historical equipment on display, so you get an idea of some of the tools that were used and some of the techniques. And you had to crawl through this gap at one point, which everyone found quite amusing. Turns out there was a little pathway to the side if you didn't feel like crawling. And of course, another one of these 40-odd chapels is right here. And you have this pretty cool display about how the air shafts work in the mine, because the flow of air has to be very carefully regulated in the mines. And you also get a lot more of a hands-on approach with this tour. So you can see people turning a water wheel, people, smashing down rock to get more salt. They gave us a map at some point to explore. And you have of course, the cool obelisk inside here, and the yet another chandelier made from salt crystals, looking absolutely beautiful. It's fair to say that they like their chandeliers in this area. But yes, to give you a few more facts, because I didn't quite finish the history. So after the end of World War I and the regaining of independence by Poland, the mine once again became the property of the Polish state treasury and was taken under Polish administration. In 1964, the mining of rock salt in Wieliczka was completely discontinued in favour of the industrial production of evaporated salt using the wet mining method. And in 1966, a decision was made to end industrial salt production in Wieliczka. And since 1976, the underground Wieliczka has been listed in the Register of Monuments. And in 1994, it was declared a National Historic Monument by the President of the Republic of Poland. Another site you have in the city is the church and monastery complex of the Franciscan Reformati Fathers, the first brick temple of the Lesser Poland province of the Reformati, built in the first half of the 17th century. So, basically, a nice monastery in the south. And, yeah, of course, adds a bit of culture to an otherwise historical and adventure-based tour. And it's kind of, you can see that Wieliczka itself is in a basin, so there are hills kind of either side of it. But I've not heard about any flooding in Wieliczka, at least not yet. But it's, a bit of a hill walk if you want to explore. But certainly Wieliczka is a lovely place to visit. I think it's outside of Krakow. It's probably one of the most visited places in Poland because everyone wants to see the amazing salt mines. And it's just a lovely, calm, tranquil place, like a lot of Poland. Very beautiful, very well maintained, very clean. And a nice bugle. But thank you very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and see you next time.